The Matrix Home Solutions Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Victoria Nuland, who is the Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs, appeared before a Senate committee yesterday, and she had an exchange with Florida Senator Marco Rubio about the prospect that the Russians would use chemical weapons. He asked her about bioweapon labs in Ukraine. Listen to this exchange.
Well, I only have a minute left. Let me ask you, does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons?
Ukraine has biological research facilities, which, in fact, we are now quite concerned Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of. So we are working with the Ukrainians on how they can prevent any of those research materials from falling into the hands of Russian forces should they approach.
I'm sure you're aware that the Russian propaganda groups are already putting out there all kinds of information about how they've uncovered a plot by the Ukrainians to release biological weapons in the country and with NATO's coordination. If there's a biological or chemical weapon incident or attack inside of Ukraine, is there any doubt in your mind that 100% it would be the Russians that would be behind it?
There is no doubt in my mind, Senator, and it is classic Russian technique to blame on the other guy what they're planning to do themselves.
Yeah, it's also a classic Biden administration technique, by the way. Here's the thing. He asked whether Ukrainians have biological or chemical weapons, and she talked about biological research labs and fearing the research materials in those labs could fall into Russian hands. Why? Didn't answer the question, and then it was a fear that Russia could obtain research materials from labs in Ukraine. And so the question persists about biological and chemical weapons. Now, I have no doubt that Putin would use such weapons if he thought it necessary. I mean, this is somebody who's not afraid to commit war crimes, not afraid to murder wide swaths of people as he's doing. But the Ukraine back and forth there left me a little unsatisfied as it pertains to Ukraine. For more on this, somebody who is steeped in the language, we're pleased to be joined by Professor Slavoj Žižek. He's a Slovenian philosopher, researcher at the Department of Philosophy at the University of Ljubljana Faculty of Arts. Professor Žižek, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
It's an honor for me. Thank you very much.
So before we get to some of your recent writings on the topic of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the refugee crisis that has fomented, what about that exchange between Senator Rubio and a Biden administration official at State about Ukraine and biological labs and whether or not Ukrainians have biological or chemical weapons and whether we should be concerned about either side, both sides, using such weaponry?
I think Russia, of course, as all superpowers, already has more than enough of biological weapons, and don't forget about something else, of, how should I call them, brain weapons. That's the big thing now. Nobody likes to talk about it. They already have gases and so on, which do things to your brain, makes you disoriented and so on. Next stage of war will be, I claim, direct, how should I call it, psychic warfare. Warfare to control our brains. And there, all superpowers have them. What is happening now in Ukraine, there is only one, not even danger, but possibility that Russians get hold of these facilities, and then, as it was already mentioned, they will use them but attributing the use to the opponent, of course.
You wrote a piece about what does defending Europe mean? What does that look like? And in part, it was a discussion of I guess the numbers now around 2 million refugees that this war has produced. And you expressed some pride in your home country of Slovenia as well as some shame. What's your perspective on what Europe's response to the refugee crisis should be, and develop that more in terms of what defending Europe actually means in practice?
Well, when Zelensky, whom I respect very much, the Ukrainian president, when he is repeating, we are defending European civilization, the civilized world, and so on and so on, this is a very ambiguous statement for me. On the one hand, yes, this is true. But I think that the line that separates civilization from barbarism is nonetheless ultimately a line within each country. Yes, defending Europe, but the highest notion of barbarian horror, Holocaust, Nazism, this was an event which happened in the middle of the most civilized Europe in Germany. So while I advocate, don't misunderstand me, full support, give them arms and so on to Ukraine, we should never forget that we are not just defending the fortress Europe. We also should be very careful what message are we giving to the third world countries, for example. Sorry. For example, I have friends who are absolutely not anti-Semitic in some Arab countries, and they told me, okay, now, big discovery, you discovered that Putin is a war criminal. But a couple of years ago, when, in order to save the Syrian regime of Assad, he was bombing Aleppo, the bombing was much more brutal. Why didn't you react more forcefully then? I think it would be a great mistake if Europe limits itself to this closed fortress mentality. Never forget, the battle that is going on now is also the battle for the billions of people in the third world. We should be very attentive to this, and don't please forget my true heroes. I'm in contact with them. I make statements for them. No, Russia is not only a barbarian country. There are thousands of people, many of my friends, who simply disappeared, who protest them. And as I said in a statement, those who protest against Putin openly in Russia today, they are not some abstract internationalists. They are the true patriots. They are defending what is worth defending in Russia. Our motto today should be, the most disgusting slogan that I can imagine is, my country, right or wrong. No, if you truly love your country, you must be able to be ashamed of your country when it's doing something wrong. Yeah. I think that Russian dissidents, Russian protests, not only among intellectuals, I hear from my friends in Ukraine horrible stories about ordinary Russian soldiers. They were not well-trained conscripts. They don't even have enough provisions, food. You have tragicomic scenes that Ukrainian people bring food to ordinary Russian soldiers. They don't get enough provisions. Russian soldiers don't know where they are and so on. So we have to bear in mind this complexity and always remember our struggle now is a universal struggle. Don't talk the language of defending European soul, spirit, truth against the Euro-Asian soul. If you talk like this in the terms of clash of civilizations, you are already speaking the language of Alexander Dugin, Putin's court philosopher, who precisely sees peace as the conflict of two models, Western European liberal model and Russian model.
Do you think the Russian soldiers know what the mission is? Because we read yesterday about a prisoner of war who was taken who said, we were told that we're fighting Nazis.
Of course they are told this, and we have to be here absolutely clear and open. Yes, there may be some marginal proto-Nazi, not really groups in Ukraine, but don't forget, in Russia they are also Putin's secret armies. I think this is the key to all of it. Putin's secret armies, as our listeners should know, the so-called very mysterious group Wagner, a private group of mercenaries, not part of the official army, but of course they are total, and they, and so on and so on. Also, when Russians claim they are fighting neo-Nazis there, just look at whom Putin refers to philosophically. Ivan Ilyin, a Russian philosopher, theologist who 100 years ago openly advocated Russian fascism as the only solution for Russia. Look whom is Putin supporting in the last decade or two. Precisely this half-directly fascist right-wing fringe parties. Alternative for Germany in Germany, Lega du Nord in Italy, Marine Le Pen in France, and so on and so on. That's the reality. And I especially want to appeal here to leftists. There are still, to my shock, some leftists who think that, United States are the big imperialist hegemonic power, so whatever Putin is, here it is the United States, there must be something good in him. No, just look at who Putin is. Putin clearly is a neo-fascist. I'm not saying we should now send bombers against the Russian and risk world war, but one thing has to be made clear. This is already, now up to a point, a proxy war, but already a war between Europe and Russia. And we have to proceed strategically, being careful what we do, but at the same time with full awareness of what is going on. The crucial thing that happened and shocked me is how 3-4 days ago in an interview Putin said, remember, we have some military operations there in Ukraine, but Russia is still doing commerce, delivering oil and gas to the West. So this is Putin's vision of a new world order. You have yours here, where you can do all the bombings and so on. Otherwise, life should just go on as normal. This is Putin's peace. I called him, ironically, a hot peace as opposed to Cold War.
Yeah,
a new Cold War is almost a solution today.
Yeah, and hopefully, as you say, the left will perform more admirably in this new Cold War than they did in the previous one, because we're talking about a KGB communist. That's who Vlad Putin is. And you'll remember the left.
Communists who can't fool. If you're talking about, talking about Putin himself, listen, I don't know what is communist about him. Did you remember, I'm saying this as a radical leftist, when Putin announced the military intervention, he mentioned critically only one name, Lenin. He said Lenin invented the Ukrainians, it's all Bolsheviks, and so on and so on.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, he's from the Soviet era. He was KGB, and he was part of that communist totalitarian regime. And I recall, as a kid in the 80s, the left was not so fond of Ronald Reagan's evil empire description of the Soviet Union and the horrors and the atrocities that were committed by the Soviets over the 80 years of their history, too. And so, as you say, I'm glad you're making an appeal to the left because they didn't perform particularly admirably last go around. Professor Slavoj Žižek, we got to go. Slovenian philosopher, researcher at the Department of Philosophy of the University of Ljubljana Faculty of Arts. Professor Žižek, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hi, this is Dennis Prager for the good folks at BestHotGrill.com. They make the Solaire infrared grills, the hot, fast grills for every day, year-round grilling. You may already have a low-temperature, slow-cooking smoker, egg, or pellet barbecue. They're fine when you have the time. But you don't have to wait for the weekend with a Solaire infrared gas grill, which heats up to 1,000 degrees in just 3 minutes, even in the dead of winter. The high heat locks in the juices, grills food faster, and makes steaks, chicken, veggies, and fish more succulent and tasty. Every meal, every day. And with Solaire's demo rental program, you can try before you buy, grilling all the foods your family enjoys without a salesman breathing down your neck, and see why the USA-made Solaire is the last grill you'll ever buy. Learn more at BestHotGrill.com. That's BestHotGrill.com. Try before you buy with the Solaire Demo Rental Program at BestHotGrill.com.
Guys, there's a lot of people talking about testosterone, but do your homework and be sure to go to a provider you can trust. I recommend my friends at Low T Center and have been for years because, well, they're the best. Low T Center exclusively specializes in men's wellness. They check all of your levels, not just your testosterone. They determine the cause of any symptoms you're having and whether or not you're a candidate for low T or something else like low thyroid or even sleep apnea. Their annual health assessment is typically completely covered by health insurance, and it's thorough, checking everything from PSA, which is your prostate levels, thyroid, liver and kidney function, cholesterol, glucose levels, and more. Low T Center has affordable and convenient options for treatment, including monitored self-inject treatment that ships to your home. Make your health a priority and schedule your annual health assessment. It's covered by most health insurance or less than $100 cash pay. Go to lowtcenter.com to book your appointment online. That's lowtcenter.com. Book online today with my friends at Low T Center. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
You are a creator.